Welcome back to this month's Final Fantasy VI lore video. This time I'll be looking at the life and trials of Gao, the savage yet kind-hearted member of the Returners. The story of Gao is steeped in tragedy, violence, struggle, loyalty, and friendship. This character is truly one of the most misunderstood and underestimated characters in the game, as his savage exterior hides a kind, good-natured child yearning to connect with other humans. The character itself seems to be inspired by characters such as Mowgli from Rudyard Kipling's The Jungle Book, or Tarzan created by Edgar Rice Burroughs. While entirely human in the finished version of Final Fantasy VI, early production sketches made him out to be more of a hybrid between human and animal, with fur, claws, and even a tail. Ultimately, the producers decided on keeping the character human, thus allowing a more relatable character, and to differentiate him from other characters that join the Returners like Mog, Umaro, and possibly the mysterious mimic Go-Go. Appearance-wise, Gao is a boy of around 13 years old when he first joins the ranks of the Returners. His blonde and unkempt hair drapes over the animal hides slung over his shoulder. He wears a minimal amount of animal skins, just enough to protect himself from the harsh elements of his adopted homeland, the Veldt. Gao has no known possessions, with the possible exception of a teddy bear. Since he was abandoned as a newborn, and the circumstances in which he arrived on the Veldt, it's doubtful that particular possession came along with him. It's more than likely that he acquired it, or more appropriately stole it, sometime later in life from a nearby village. Beside the teddy bear, he has an affinity for shiny objects, and like many wild animals, keeps them safe by burying them. This strange attraction to these objects will play a pivotal role in events to come. But before we discuss his time with the Returners, we'll explore his tragic past. From the moment that Gao was born, his life was filled with struggle and strife. Born to a family living in seclusion along the Leth River north of the Kingdom of Doma, the birth itself would ultimately take the life of his mother and fracture the mind of his father. Though it's quite possible, and more than likely, that his father was already mentally unwell, the death of his wife during childbirth brought him over the edge of sanity. In his mental collapse, his mind interpreted the events quite differently from the true reality. Believing that his wife gave birth to a demon child who then proceeds to kill her, he takes the child, who at this time is only minutes old, and tosses him into the Leth River. Believing the demon exorcised, he returns to his home, where his mental state further declines. With his sanity fully shattered, he now believes that he never had a wife or child. Living in isolation, he sees few visitors, but those who have encountered the aged man simply witness an insane and mostly harmless person. Though, when children are brought up, he becomes irate, ranting and screaming about throwing the ones who brought up the topic onto the Veldt as well. Evidence that buried under this insanity is knowledge and some understanding of the heinous act he committed. Though his father intended to kill him, Gao miraculously survives and is carried down the Leth River to an isolated area of the eastern continent known as the Veldt. Washed ashore, he is discovered by the animals on the Veldt, most likely a group of pack animals like wolves, and taken in as one of their own cubs. I'm making this assumption of pack animals due to the fact that Gao would learn to hunt and use tactics to infiltrate and take down herding animals. It's doubtful that solitary animals like large cats or herds of animals like bison or gazelle would produce this type of apex hunter that Gao would become. Gao is obviously very intelligent, as he's able to survive for 13 years on the Veldt with little to no contact with other humans. He's even able to develop basic language skills, though limited in development to that of a child around 3 years old. This is actually quite interesting that he was able to learn language and basic communication skills. Mountains and rivers cut off the Veldt from the rest of the continent, and there is only one town within this region, Mobliz. This town is less of a cultural center for learning and more of a waypoint for hunters to rest and supply themselves on their hunt for their trophy pieces on the Veldt. Gao must have scouted the town from a short distance away, listening in on those going about their business. This would help him familiarize himself with other humans and as well pick up some language skills. It's quite possible that the teddy bear he carries with him was taken from this town. Among learning the language from the people of Mobliz, a spark of interest to connect with his own people grows within him. It's obvious that he has also snuck into town from time to time, as he's developed a love for cured, dried, and salted meats. Some of the permanent residents of Mobliz will share stories from hunters of seeing a human boy running with various herds and packs of wild animals, though none have encountered him in person, as far as anyone knows. Around the time that he was 13, Gao would discover two strange individuals washed up onto the shores of the river who had apparently leaped from barren falls, one of which was dressed casually in light fabrics and the other in a suit of forged metal armor. Neither of these people looked like anything he had ever seen before among the hunters. Reluctant to get too close out of instinct, Gao watches them from a short distance away within the packs of animals. In an initial encounter, Gao makes himself known to the strangers, and after a short but tense stare down, Gao backs off and leaves, bewildered by their behavior and not understanding their reluctance to attack or flee, even though they stood ready in a fighting stance. A day or two later, Gao once again encounters the two strangers, but this time they make the first move. The blonde-haired one, wearing the cloth, carefully hands to Gao some dried, salted meat. This is most likely the first time Gao has ever seen human generosity, and his response is surprising to the strangers. Gao responds with gratitude and friendship, though his form of communication is still bewildering. Using mostly body movements and grunts, as well as his limited language skills rife with bad and broken grammar, Gao introduces himself and instantly feels an attachment to his newfound friends, Sabin and Cyan. Not completely understanding how to properly interact with other people, he then demands more dried meat, but Sabin refuses. Reverting to his animal instincts, Gao tries to intimidate Sabin, thus establishing dominance in their relationship. Sabin, annoyed with the boy, is having none of this, and a tussle ensues. Sabin is outsmarted in the same way Elmer Fudd is fooled by Bugs Bunny, literally chasing him around while Gao laughs. Gao's amused with the rage building up in Sabin. Luckily, before anything serious happens, Cyan breaks the two of them up. Gao is confused by Cyan's formality in speech, having never heard someone of refined upbringing before, and baffled by the word thou, which Cyan uses often. Cyan turns away, and Gao misinterprets this as anger towards him. Since this is the most significant contact with other people that Gao has ever had, his behavior reverts to that of a young child looking for validation from a parent. It seems that seeing the energetic boy has awoken feelings in Cyan that he has been trying to forget about. Recently, he had lost his wife and child when Kefka, the mad general of the Empire, poisoned the water supply of Doma, killing nearly everyone within the kingdom. Seeing Gao has brought to the surface memories of his own child, and the raw pain of having just lost them being too much for him to handle. Sabin explains the situation to Gao. The idea of love and loss are still foreign ideas to him, where on the Veldt, life is only about survival of the fittest. Gao still tries to show some understanding of Cyan's tragic loss. Sabin offers to take Gao with them, and as a gift of appreciation for the food, friendship, and new companionship, Gao offers to give Cyan and Sabin a shiny treasure that he has hid away in the caves of Crescent Mountain, on the south end of the Veldt. Upon searching the cave, they find Gao's hidden shiny treasure. It turns out to be diving gear taken from Mobliz, exactly what they needed to cross the underwater serpent trench back to civilization. With their newly acquired equipment, the three of them dive into the trench, where they are swept away back to Nicaea, where they then take a ferry to South Figaro to reunite with their other companions. Gao would continue to travel with the returners, helping them in their fight against the Gestalian Empire. Whether he truly understood the risks that the Empire posed to the world, or was simply fighting alongside the returners out of loyalty and friendship, we'll never really know. Gao would continue alongside everyone up until the end of the world, surviving the destruction of the airship that occurs after the Triad statues are shifted on the floating continent. Gao would become separated from most of the returners. Having seen firsthand the destruction wrought upon the world by Kefka, Gao's new focus is becoming strong enough to defeat Kefka once and for all. Gao decides to return to the Veld to train and hone his skills. Overrun by monsters created in this new world of ruin, Gao's strength and skills grow tenfold. At some point before returning to the Veld, Gao would encounter Cyan and inform him to find him on the Veld when they were ready for the final showdown. Around a year into his trials roaming the Veld, Gao is rediscovered by the Returners, now led by former General Celeste, seeking out the other Returners to mount a final attack against Kefka. But before taking on the Mad God, each member of the team completes some unfinished business, as they all know that they may never return from this mission. During this time gathering lost teammates and putting their affairs in order, Gao and his friends encounter the house of the old, insane man. Sabin pieces things together and believes that this is Gao's father. They take Gao to the city of J'dor to teach him manners and etiquette, alongside a full makeover and a nice suit, so they can show Gao's father the great man that his long-lost son had become. Sabin introduces his father to Gao, with seemingly disastrous results. The old man at this point is too far gone, and angrily claims that he has no son. He then recounts a dream he once had when he was married and his wife was killed by a demon child, showing that while he's trying to reconcile what he has done, he's no longer able to discern fact from fiction. This outright rejection of his son puts Sabin over the edge, and in his rage is about to pummel the old man, when Gao steps in to stop him, and they leave the house. Sabin apologizes, believing that his plan failed and only caused more grief for Gao. Though for Gao, it was an entirely different encounter. Gao recognizes the old man as his father, and instead of reacting with understandable animosity for being abandoned at birth, is happy that his father is alive, and at the very least, physically well. This is a testament to Gao's kind-hearted nature, where he would put his health and welfare of all others above even his own well-being or his feelings. Upon defeating Kefka, the team escapes the crumbling tower. Gao's animal prowess enables him to find a shortcut, riding piles of loose rocks down parts of the tower, enabling the returners to escape in one piece. It's not known how Gao lives his life in the new world born of their actions. Whether he returns to the Veld or attempts to integrate himself into society will never be known, but either way, the world is enriched with Gao's presence. This concludes the story of Gao. From savage to hero, Gao never shies away from danger when the lives of his companions are at stake. Thank you all for watching. I'll continue with Final Fantasy lore next month. We'll see you in the next video.